So section 6.3, we are going to be factoring trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Now the difference here is that our leading coefficient, the coefficient on our x squared term, is no longer 1. It's not going to be 1 here. It's going to be different. Now what we will be doing in this section is we're going to use a method called trial and error, also called guess and check. Okay, so we have a couple different names because it is just through guessing and checking, trying different combinations, that we're going to factor these trinomials that are in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Now I'm going to talk through the steps of trial and error as we look at example number 1. Now, as with factoring, like we talked about in section 6.2, the first thing we're going to do is we want to order the terms in descending order of one variable. In number 1, step 1 is done. It is 3x squared plus 5x plus 2. We are in descending order. With step 2, we're going to factor out the greatest common factor. Well, when we look at number 1, the greatest common factor, there is no greatest common factor other than 1. So that step is done. So for step 3, what we're going to do for step 3, and I'm going to go ahead and start, write my answer area. So I remember to put my answer up here. For step 3, I'm going to look at the possibilities for the first terms. Now, another name that we call trial and error or guess and check, we call it unfoiling. So when you look at from the F, when we FOIL, right, we look at multiplying the first term. So the only way that we can get 3x squared from two first terms is x and 3x. Right? Step 4 said to list the possibilities for the second term, otherwise known as the factor pairs for 2. Now, for 2, the only factor pair 2 has is the 1 and the 2, right? That's the only way that you can multiply to 2. Now from this, okay, we'll hold that information, but we're going to try two different binomials and we're going to multiply them. We're going to guess which one is our solution, and then we are going to do the F plus the O plus the I plus the L, right? So we're going to unfoil and we're going to check it, right? So we're going to try. Let's go ahead with the first pair. So the only option we have for the first term from each binomial is x and 3x. Now let's look for a combination. And what we're going to do, we have 1 and 2. So let's go ahead and put plus 2 plus 1. It's just an option. This is my first guess. Now let's check by FOILing. So we have first 3x squared. We have the outer plus x. We have the inner plus 7x. And then we have the last plus 2. Now, I know because I chose factors of 3x squared, x and 3x, I knew that my f would be just fine. Right? I knew my first term equals the first term. That is really good. I know my last term because the second term in each binomial is from the factor pair of 2. So I knew that my last term would work. What I want to focus on is what happens when I add my inner plus my outer term. Notice I have an 8x. I have 8x. What I need is a 5x. So we guessed, we checked, it did not work. So I'm just going to draw a line through this, but I still want to be able to see the work I've already done. All right, so now let's go ahead and we're going to make a new guess. So we have x and then the 3x, the first terms. And then I'm going to put, instead of a plus 2 in the first binomial, I'm going to put a plus 1. And then I'm going to move the 2 to the second. So for our first, we're going to FOIL 3x squared. Outer, we get 2x. Inner, we get 3x. And last, we get 2. Notice that when I look at those middle two terms, I get 5x. It's exactly what I needed. So that means this would be my answer. X plus 1 plus, and then times the binomial 3x plus 2. That's my answer. I'm going to make sure that my person I'm trying to communicate that to clearly knows what my answer is. Number 2. All right, number 2, 4x squared minus 17x plus 4. All right, well, let's go ahead and write up our answer. It is in descending order. And there is no greatest common factor. So I'm going to go ahead and create my answer area. And then I'm going to look at my factors here. So for 4x squared, I can do x and 4x. I could also do 2x and 2x. And then for 4 factor pairs of 4, 1 and 4, 2 and 2. All right. Now notice that the middle term is negative. So we're going to go ahead and work on our factors. But that negative, what it really means is when you get that negative 17, but we have a positive C term, it means we're going to have negative terms in the middle. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what this is going to look like in the end. All right, so again, since this term is positive and this term is negative, I know that we are going to be negative factors here. All right, so let's go ahead and start with x and 4x. All right, and then I'm going to have a minus 1, minus 4. So we do our first, 4x squared, do our outer, minus 4x, do our inner, minus 4x, do our last, plus 4. Now in the middle, notice that I have a negative 8x. What I need is a minus 17, so it doesn't work. All right, so what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to use the same terms, but I'm going to change their order. So I'm going to put a minus 4 here and a minus 1 there. So we'll do the first. Again, we get 4x squared. Outer, minus x. Inner, minus 16x. And then last, plus 4. Now notice here, I end up with a negative 17x. And when I finish this, I have exactly what I started with, which means this is the answer. And I'm going to write it in my spot. Now, that negative that this should be an equal sign, not a negative sign. I wanted to make sure I fixed that. All right, so this is my answer. This is my, okay. Awesome. Let's go on to number 3. All right, so going through the properties, or the steps, I should say, of factoring, looking at negative 6x squared minus 13x plus 5. Well, that first term, now it is in descending order. There are no greatest common factors. The first term is negative, so I need to take that negative out. And then what I have left is 6x squared minus 13x plus 5. Now what I need to factor, I'm going to refocus and factor everything that's in there. I'm not going to look to the original problem. I look what's in the parentheses. Now because of that, I'm going to write my answer area. And it's going to, because why? Why is a good question, or right? That's a good question. Because that negative is still going to be part of my answer. Because when I multiply everything together, I have to get what I started with. And if I don't have that negative, it won't happen. All right, so now let's take a look. And I'm going to look at the factors of 6x squared. That's going to be x and 6x, or 2x and 3x. And then I look at the factors of, I did notice one little error here. Should be a plus. And this plus should be a minus. Let me get rid of that too. All right, so when I take out the negative, every sign inside the parentheses please make this fix. We'll change. All right, so now let's take a look at factors of negative 5. It's either going to be 1 and negative 5 or negative 1 and 5. All right, so I'm going to go to my little chart, and I'm going to start with x, and 6x, and negative 1 and plus 5. All right, so I'm going to go first. I get 6x squared plus the outer plus 5x plus the inner minus 6x plus the last minus 5. All right, when I look at what's in the middle, I get a negative 1. What I need is a negative 13. So that's not what I need. So let's go ahead and change their order. And with that, I have x minus 5 times 6x plus 1. Okay, so I go first, outer, inner, and then last. Now I notice what I end up with combined x and a minus 30x is negative 29x. It's not what I needed there. I need that minus 13. So neither of these worked. And again, if I only change the negative signs, so it would be x plus 5 times 6x minus 1, it would just change the middle from being a negative 29 to a positive 29. So neither of these work. All right, so that means this x and the 6x does not work. Okay, we're going to move on. And we're going to take a look at the 2x and the 3x. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I need a combination of 1 and 5 in the middle. And I'm going to take a look at just saying, you know, minus 1 and a plus 5, and I'm going to FOIL. So first, 6x, outer plus 10x, inner minus 3x, and then last minus 5. Okay, in the middle, I get a 7, a plus 7x. Right here, I need a negative 13x. All right, so that didn't work. Let's try another one. Let's do 2x. I'm going to change the 5 and the 3. So let's say minus 5. And then 3x plus 1. And it's 6x squared, first term, outer term plus 2x, inner term minus 15x, and then last term minus 5. When I combine these middle two terms, I get negative 13x. What I needed was negative 13x. It is not negative 13x. What I needed was positive 13x. Okay, so I am off. It's right here. I am off by a positive sign, a negative sign. So what I'm going to do is I am going to change the signs inside. Sorry about that, Blender. Okay, and when I do first, outer minus 2x, inner plus 15x, and then last is a minus 5. All right, so again, notice how important it was that my focus change from what was outside the original to what's inside the parentheses. Okay, it makes a big difference. So our final answer, you know, we're checking it, and this is exactly what I needed. But I have to remember to put my answer in the right spot. So this 2x plus 5, I'm going to put in here 2x plus 5, 3x minus 1. And the answer has to be with that negative that we originally took out. I'm going to make an adjustment in my notes because I'm going to copy them and run them with this video. So let me just make a little bit of room here. So you can watch through everything. I want to get these out today. All right, number 4. 6y squared minus 5y minus 6. All right, so there it is in descending order. It is, there is no greatest common factor to take out. When I look at 6y squared, my options are y and 6y, or 2y and 3y. When I look at negative 6, I have 1 and 6, negative 1 and 6, negative 2 and 3, 1 and negative 6, and then 2 and negative 3. All right, so we're going to go through f plus o plus I plus L. All right, so let's go ahead and where do we want to begin? I'm going to start with the 2y and 3y, because once you practice these, eventually you kind of make a good guess, right? So I'm going to try the 2y and the 3y, and let's do the plus 3 and the minus 2. So we go first 6y squared, outer minus 4y, inner plus 9y, and last minus 6. I actually didn't mean to get so close. I am close here. I'm not quite where I need to be. Now notice that I have a 5y, but what I need, looking at the right trinomial that I'm factoring right now, is a negative 5y. Now, because of experience and what we've talked about, I know that what I need to do is I just need to change the signs in the parentheses. All right, so first, 6y squared. Outer plus 4y. Inner minus 9y. And then last, minus 6. Now, when I combine the middle two terms, I get exactly what I need with that minus 5y. So I'm going to write this factorization in my answer area, and I'm going to make sure that this is highlighted nicely.